Good afternoon, boys and girls. Here's our read aloud from our chapter book, The Flying Flea, Callie and Me, Chapter 4. Callie scurried down the sidewalk. I stayed hot on her heels, ducking and flinching each time one of the birds made a flyby. Once under the carport at the end of the sidewalk, we were safe from their attacks, but it didn't help the noise problem. The pair still kept screeching and screaming their threats at the top of their birdie lungs. To the right of the carport, on the other side of the chain link fence, I could see the mama. She was down on one knee petting Muffy. She frowned when she looked over at us. "Wonder what all that fuss is about?" she asked the old dog. Callie nudged me with her shoulder. "There's the problem," she said. "One of the baby birds has fallen from the nest." I frowned, staring where Callie's nose was pointing. "Where? What baby bird?" "That little thing there beside the woodpile." I tilted my head to the side. "He sure looks weird. He has even less feathers than I thought. The poor thing is almost naked." Callie's sides jiggled in and out when she laughed. "It's a baby bird, all right," she chuckled. "They don't get regular feathers until they're older." "What are you laughing about?" Callie shrugged her fur. "I just never heard anybody say a baby bird is naked." "Well, it is," I insisted. "And it's ugly, too. I never saw anything so ugly." I trotted out for a closer look. Big mistake. When I walked out from under the carport, Bird stabbed me right in the middle of my back. It hurt so bad that I let out a loud meow. Before she could hit me again, I raced back for the safety of the roof. The chain link gate squeaked when Mama opened it. "What in the world is going on out here?" she asked, frowning down at me. "Between the bird squawking and you yowling, it sounds like a battle." Folding her arms, she looked around. "Oh dear, no wonder they're making such a fuss." She shot me an angry look. "I'd be upset too if some cat were trying to get my baby." She scurried off toward the fallen baby bird. "I wasn't trying to get the bird. I was just looking." Mama didn't hear me. Either that or she just didn't understand. Very gently, she picked up the baby bird and put it in the nest. When she came back, she shook her finger at me and Callie. "You two leave those birds alone." "I didn't do anything," I protested. "I was just looking." Bird flew to her nest with a last warning. "Stay away from my nest. Leave my babies alone." "I wasn't doing anything," I whined. "I was just looking." Now that the excitement was over, Callie curled up in a bed of pine needles to take a nap. It was getting dark, so I decided to check if any mice were left in the field. As I walked through the pasture, I heard the distant sound of thunder. I would have to make a quick catch and be back before the rain came. The field was really nearly empty. Cut hay lay on the ground in rows. The mice must have moved to the rock hill. I leaped across a small creek to get to the rocky edge where the mice were hiding. I waited quietly, listening, watching for the slightest movement that would show me where they were. I flattened myself out and crawled along the edge of the hill. The night seemed to be darker than usual. I heard a low rumble in the sky as I continued my search. Small drops of rain began to hit me on the back. I tried to shake them off. The raindrops got bigger. They were cold and wet. We cats don't like cold and wet. I scurried to hide under a rock ledge. The mice must have known that the storm was coming. Wind shook the trees around me. Leaves fell to the ground as lightning and thunder grew closer. Rain splashed the dirt, leaving small round dents where the big drops hit. I wanted to be back at the house. I wanted to be sitting safely on the rocking chair. Callie was probably asleep inside. She wouldn't even hear the wild sounds of the storm. A bolt of lightning struck a tree on the hillside. My fur stood on end. I licked my paws, trying to get it to lay down. Cracking sounds filled the air as the tree broke apart and fell to the ground. I pushed myself farther under the rock, tucking my tail against my body. I knew that I would have to wait until the storm was over. I longed for the safety of the house and the people. Small streams of water began running down the hillside. One ran near the rock cliff that I was tucked under. Limbs and twigs covered the ground as the wind gusts shook more of them loose from the trees. I was safe and dry under the cliff. When I woke up from a small cat nap, I could still hear thunder, but it was not as loud now. I wiggled out toward the edge of the rock overhang. Peering up, I saw that a large branch had fallen onto the cliff that was protecting me. There was stuff everywhere. I had to twist and turn and squeeze and climb just to get out of the tangled mess that the storm had left. The creek was running high with murky water. I had to cross it, but it was deeper and wider than when I had come to the hillside. I followed the stream until I came to a sturdy branch that had fallen across it, making a bridge. Carefully, I made my way over the rushing water. The rows of hay in Daddy's field were all wet and soggy. The mice still weren't anywhere to be seen. I followed the path to the pasture in front of the house. I shook the drops of rain from my back as I listened for the sounds of scurrying mice. The stillness was finally broken by the squeal of a brown field mouse. I wiggled flat against the ground. My whiskers twitched. I glared at the big mouse. Proudly, I carried the trophy to the porch. The mama would be impressed with the prize this big. I could hardly wait until she found it on the mat. She would know that I was a great mouser when she saw this big one. I finished eating the crunchy part and headed for the rocking chair. The usual glare from the yard light was missing. The storm must have knocked it out. The front porch was a mess. My rocking chair was turned over, and puddles of water covered the concrete. Limbs from the pecan tree littered the yard, and wet leaves clung to everything. The corner of the porch was the only dry spot I could find, so I curled up for a nap. Dreams of mice danced in my head until I heard the door open. The mama was setting Callie down on the porch. The damage from the storm seemed to surprise Mama as she stepped outside. I guess that she didn't look before she stepped. Her bare foot smushed the big juicy mouse into the doormat. Suddenly the mama began squealing and jumping around. "Gray, this is so gross." She grabbed a broom and came after me. I scurried past the front porch. "What's the matter?" I meowed as I shot out of her reach. "This is my best trophy yet. What did I do?" I stopped at the end of the sidewalk, washing my front paws. I carefully watched the mama. She glared at me. "Gray, why can't you just eat those nasty things? I don't want them here where they stink up the place. This is awful." She was standing in the grass, wiping off her bare foot. Maybe she should have been watching where she stepped. I always put my trophies on the mat. She should be proud of me. I was protecting the place from these creatures. I washed my neck and headed for the woodpile. People were so hard to understand. So that's chapter 4, boys and girls. Tune in tomorrow afternoon for chapter 5.